Today, I'm joined by Sophie Bryan, founder and chief workplace culture specialist at Ordinarily Different. Sophie is also an internationally recognized for her TEDx talks and recently launched her own podcast, Rebel Work. With over 20 years of award winning experience in HR and culture change, working with organizations globally, and even most recently doing a stint on BBC Radio 4 with David Mitchell, I have long desired for Sophie to join me on the podcast. And I'm so glad that I finally got to secure her for season 9. Of course, Sophie is a woman of many talents, and like all of us, she doesn't do just one thing. Sophie is also a career and life coach, as well as being a yoga teacher and nutritionist. I met Sophie through our love of workplace culture, that we have so many things in common. You're lucky this episode isn't a 5-part series. Maybe that's to come in the future. Once we get talking, we just don't stop. And I have a huge admiration and respect for the work Sophie does, but also for the support and encouragement Sophie has shown me during my own career. She is truly a woman who helps other women rise. Just like mine and Sophie's real life conversations, today's episode is a ride through some of our biggest workplace challenges. We love nothing better than pulling apart what's being said about work and putting in our honest opinions as culture coaches. So, without giving too much away, let's get started. Hi, Sophie, and welcome to the Make It Thrive podcast.
Hi, Lizzie.
I have been so looking forward to having you on, Sophie, because I think you've been on my guest list for so long and now we've finally made it happen.
Yeah, we've had so many good conversations, Lizzie, that I think we definitely should have had captured on record.
We should have done. There's so many snippets from our previous conversations where I thought I should have recorded that because we could have had so many good segments that people would have been really interested to hear, especially our experiences of working with different company cultures. So for those of you who sort of, are kind of listening to this at the moment and haven't perhaps watched your TED Talk or been on your podcast, tell us a little bit more about how you got into this world, Sophie.
Oh, well, I guess the best place to start is when I was 17, which secretively, between you and I, that was 20 years ago. And that was when I first started my career. And I remember being on a youth development trainee scheme, doing my MVQ level 2 in business administration. Don't even know if they still exist now. And it being my first insight into work. And of course, being a young, naive 17-year-old, I kind of thought, this sucks, right? I didn't understand why we was all confined to these big 1980s concrete buildings. The world was passing us by outside. And we were kind of confined to this desk. This is your desk. This is where you sit 9 to 5. And even, going out for lunch breaks, there would be the monitor who would be watching, what time did Sophie go out for lunch? Oh, she was 5 minutes late. I hope you're going to stay back. All of that going on at such a young age really, really painted a picture for me from the off of what the world of work was like. And I knew at that point that I wasn't in it for the long haul. I knew at 17, this sucked. And at some point, I was going to start my own business and go my own way because this just wasn't. And I guess throughout the next 20 years, I was looking for that excuse to quit the workplace, to go, I've had enough, I need to escape. But never really found the right time or the right topic or the right area of expertise. I was kind of building up my expertise to have enough experience, enough qualifications to then say, right, I can be an authentic leader in this space with a different viewpoint, and I can change the world with some of the things I have to say. So let's fast forward then 15 years from that moment where I'm in this fantastic role where I am a head of organisational development, absolutely loving my job. I'm in a space of creativity. I'm able to influence the workplace, 500 people in my organisation, where I was creating a new ethos for workplace culture. in a way that was really playful. We were using Lego for strategy days. We would have a real deep concentration on health and well-being. And it wasn't just Lizzie, you and I have this thing about well-being days. This was a theme
Yeah.
throughout every day. And I just felt like I was really impacting learning. I was impacting people's experience at work. It was a fantastic role, really shifting the culture. And then I got promoted. And I took on the role of the director of workplace culture and HR. And I was back to being 17 again. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? Why am I? Only it wasn't 9 to 5 this time. It was 60 hours, 70-hour weeks, 2-hour commute each way. And I thought, right, this is now the tipping point. I've seen enough of various different organisations in my career, different ways of behaving. I've seen enough now to say, right, this is what we should be doing in the workplace and this is what we shouldn't be doing. And my own personal experience of how I got to that senior level and how it broke me, how it took away all my authenticity, how it took away my creativity, I thought, wow, if this is happening to me at this level, imagine what's happening to everyone else. Because that reverberates out, doesn't it? What you experience in the C-suite, you end up spreading out to everyone else. And so it was at that point, Lizzie, that I thought, right, enough's enough. Life is far too short. And I had seen in my career some horrific, malpractice of how we deal with people. And I thought, no, now's the time. So 5 years ago, quit my job, started Ordinarily Different, and here I am today, spreading the word of why we need to have more happier, healthier, productive and purposeful workplaces.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, there's so much I can resonate with in that story that you've just shared. And I feel it's really funny because I had a bit of a similar experience, but I don't think it happened. It happened for me much later on in life. So I'll never forget being driven to school, and this is such a vivid memory for me. And we were stuck in traffic, and we were always stuck in traffic because we lived a little bit further away from my school. And I just remember looking at the way all the traffic was, and I just remember thinking, everyone looks like those little ant workers, like they're all and I was like, and this is going to be my life forever. This is going to be get stuck in traffic. And I remember having that, like, I don't want to be like this. Like, I don't want it to be like this. But it was never a conscious enough thought as a child to really understand what that meant. And it's funny, we went out for dinner last night with some friends, and a friend of ours was saying how, their child was kind of looking at all the things that they were doing, and like, so do you have to do all of this, like, as an adult, like, and they were like, yeah. And then they've just gone back to school, and then the first thing they said was, I've got no playtime anymore, like, I think because they've gone up and they've reduced the playtime and they're just literally in front of a desk. And I was like, it happens at such a young age that we get conditioned into this way of working, but it's so hard to kind of, it becomes such a norm, doesn't it? And it's really hard even from a young age. And I mean, I didn't have that kind of epiphany moment until I was in my late 20s, and I, was made redundant, and it was very much, do I stay in a rat race career, or do I take the plunge to start my own business? And yeah, but it shouldn't have to be that way for everyone. Everyone shouldn't have to quit work in order to be fulfilled or feel free.
Work should exist as a source of fulfillment. And I remember, I can't remember who the quote is by now, but it's always stuck with me, is that you're not going to work, you're going to joy. Like, just imagine what the world would be like, Lizzie, if actually we wasn't, because we're conditioned, going back to what you were saying about being at school, seeing the ants kind of in their lemming-like line, just tottering off, swiping in they go, and the same again at 5 o'clock. Imagine what that would feel like for everybody if we didn't have this conditioning that work was hard work, and actually we were stepping into joy every day. That feeling of rolling out of bed and going, I get to go to work today. I have to, it's my calling. Like, if I don't go, oh my God, I'm going to explode, which, sounds really utopian, like but actually there's no reason to stop us as human beings from getting to that point.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
what we've done is we've created a society, and my thoughts on this with education, and then the way
Mm.
we've then been condensed from education to be like this in the workplace. We've taken away play, hence why your friend's
Mm.
child is like, oh my God, it's all hard work now. Well, hang on. Why do we only get to play until we're 9? Right? Why is there a cutoff at 9 years old? Then all of a sudden it's serious stuff. And we've taken away that sense of freedom as well. And so we
Mm.
definitely need to get back into this space of work being a source of purpose. And you can
Yeah.
find purpose and meaning in any job.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just the way you've been conditioned to believe that work is a source of income, which of course it is, but there's so much more beyond that. We give so much of our time away to this, right? It's
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah, we do.
So,
Yeah.
if you think you're spending, was it nearly 2/3 of your life at work?
Yeah.
Do you want to look back on your life and go, yeah, I'm really pleased I spent 60 years working in a concrete jungle? Or do you want to go, I'm really
Mm.
pleased that I contributed to making a difference to X people, or I helped create this product, or the world is now the way it is because I contributed towards that? Completely different narrative.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Definitely. And it's interesting as well because you mentioned about that idea of that authentic leadership when
Mm,
you're talking
mm,
about being in the C-suite. And I feel like this is such a female challenge in the workplace, and we see it so often where female leaders in power, even we sort of see at the moment that they have to almost change who they are in order to be taken seriously. It's still occurring. And someone said to me recently, I mean, your political preference aside, they were like, oh, you should be really happy that there's women, running for prime minister. And I'm thinking, not that kind of woman. Like, I don't, I like, regardless of the politics, like, regardless of the party, I want an authentic woman who actually can relate to the experiences of women, not who has to pretend to be a man to be a female leader. It's just, and I feel like that really happens so much in the workplace still.
So my experience, funnily enough, was working alongside a female chief executive who actually was very inspiring to me at that moment in time. At that moment in time, I was really like, wow. Not so much that as I've grown, I've now realised I've got a different source and direction of inspiration. But at that moment in time, but the bigger thing for me, Lizzie, was the way our roles are created. In that I was in this space of being a sunshine yellow, very expressive, extroverted, loved being at the front of the room, teaching people, giving people information, which is why I loved, speaking at our conferences, getting people up and moving, getting people dance. I was a very, very expressive, energetic space. So for those of you that understand communication styles, I was a yellow expressive through and through. What happened when I stepped into that director's job, whilst all the promise was there, and I was no, it's still the exact same thing. It's just we want you to have that level of recognition, and we just need you to add on a few little extra bolts. What happened was I got moved from being a yellow into a blue. And a blue is someone who's very analytical, very detail oriented, somebody who's slightly more introverted. You spend more time sat at your desk analysing a spreadsheet than what you do having any interaction with human beings. And that's what broke my soul, was because we don't do in the workplace is we don't look at people's strengths and say, okay, how is this, the reason I was promoted, how is that going to be an asset for us in this new, what can she bring to the C-suite? What is it we haven't got going on that Sophie can bring a new energy, a new lightness, a new focus to? That wasn't the case. It was, come and pick up the same as everyone else and come be like me. Because everyone else in that particular space was in this detail oriented, loved the spreadsheets, loved the data. And I was like, this isn't me. So after, well, I was only in the role for about even less than a year, but I ended up going off sick because there was such a tear between who I was naturally, this yellow expressive, and who I was being asked to be. There was nothing wrong with the organisation. There was nothing wrong with the setup of it. I'd made sure of that, Lizzie, because I'd done all the culture work, right? But that one piece around trying to fit me into something that I wasn't was really, really hard for me. And I think that's also another layer on top of the female leader discussion that you were having. There's also this bit around, okay, well, what is unique about me, irrespective of me being a woman? What's unique about my energy? And actually, how can we really take that and harness it rather than squash it, diminish it, and make me like everyone else? So I think there's a real thing in the workplace. There's absolutely a conversation that needs to happen around authenticity, but a discussion needs to happen around strengths as well, because we are so keen to need out everyone's weaknesses, right? And that's what we focus our L&D on, which again, I managed to switch that in my organisation. But we have our monthly appraisals, we have our yearly appraisals, 6 monthly appraisals, however often those happen. And we're always being asked to talk about, okay, so what do you think you need to improve on? What do you think's your weakness? Oh, well, you're not very good at pivot tables, Sophie. Right, well, let's see your Excel spreadsheet. And I'm thinking, but why? Why would you want to do that to me when quite clearly I'm the spokesperson? I'm the teacher. I'm the influencer. You want me out the front, not behind. Let the people whose skills sit there shine, and let me shine. Let's try, because I've seen it work the same way, again, in the C-suite, where there were lots of blue analyticals, and they were always being called upon in board meetings to deliver presentations. And the amount of, you'd sit there and literally your eyes would be like, oh my gosh, I'm falling asleep, like someone kicked me under the table. That's not their fault. That's not their fault at all. You're asking them to be one personality, and then you're asking them to be the other. And we have an expectation in the workplace that we're the full package. And we're not. We're only who we are. So I think there's definitely something around that in terms of authenticity as well, above and beyond this piece around the female leadership. I think it definitely applies to everybody, Lizzie, around really owning who you are and multiplying that and those skills, rather than constantly trying to correct the things that we lack.
I think it goes back to so much this kind of very mechanistic approach that we still have to businesses. Like, you are a cog and you're going to fit in this box like this. So we're always trying to find people to fit into a certain way of doing things, or what that expectation is, rather than really looking for, I know that we've always discussed this, about this idea that we are multifaceted human beings with lots of skills and interests and attributes, but we're only allowed to bring 1% of that to work. We're not allowed to bring our whole selves to work, all of it. And it's almost like we're just depleting people before they've even walked through the door. It's like, no, you're just here for this macro piece that we need you to do. We don't really want the rest of you, thanks.
Yeah, it's totally bizarre. And actually, we don't realise how much talent and skill we're leaving on the table, which is why I love organisations like Zappos, for example, the shoe retailer out in the US, who interview people, bring them through their recruitment, which, I mean, even that, I could talk for hours just on how they go about doing that, because it's the most beautiful, unconventional way of doing things I just adore. But they don't have jobs, that they don't have a set job in mind for someone. They would just think, do you know what? That person's got Zappos energy. That person fits with our people-centric, customer-centric culture. Come in and be part of our organisation. And where they end up, who knows? But they see that talent, they see that willingness, and they go, yeah, you're one of our people, come join us. which I'm sure, many people listening to your podcast is like, yeah, but that's not practical, especially in this day and age. Right now, we're in a downturn, people have been made redundant. How is it we can't just go recruiting people and going, I haven't got a job for you, but you're fitting somewhere? Right, well, if that doesn't work, tell me how Zappos have become one of the biggest retailers in the world when it comes to shoes. And there's multiple organisations like this that do it that way.
Yes.
Netflix was similar. So there's something to be said about capturing the essence of someone and just going, you're my kind of person, or you've got something special that we don't have at the minute. I don't know how we're going to harness this, but come be part of the conversation. Come co-create and collaborate with us. That's what the recruitment conversation should be. And that's what our cultural conversation should be. Not, I've designed a person's specification and job specification, and what we need is X, Y, and Z. And then you have to make sure you jump through every hoop to meet that. And then that's exactly what you must do within the confines of your job. You don't sway from that. Don't give any initiative, because that's you're completely overstepping the mark there. And I've had that, and I'm sure you've probably had that too in your experience, Lizzie, where you've gone, well, I know this isn't my job, but I see this going on, or I hear this, or I've got an idea, and you're just put back in your box. No, don't worry about that. That's Sharon's job. No, don't worry. Karen will deal with that, or John's got it under control. And you think, okay, I'll stay small then. I'll stay small. And then that's when you do become that lemming, the ant. That's, do you know what? And that's, again, this brings me on to a different subject, I guess, but this quiet quitting. That's when you get that arising, when, do you know what? I'm just going to turn up, do my bare minimum, and go home again. But can I say something on that, Lizzie?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, absolutely. Go on.
It
Yeah,
makes me laugh,
absolutely.
this whole quiet quitting business, right? That someone's labelled it and now it's a thing, right? It's a bit like hybrid working. Someone labelled it hybrid working and now it's a thing, right? But quiet quitting, hybrid working, all these buzzwords have been going on for years, right?
Yeah,
and if you think back to the Gallup poll in 2017, where they said only 8% of people are fully engaged at work, right?
Yeah.
So you've got some of that remaining 92%, and I can't remember the stats now, but some, I think it's 19% of people are fully disengaged at work, right? Nearly 20%, right?
Yeah.
That's your quiet quitters. Gallup poll knew this 2017. And we have been, in our communities, Lizzie, we have been talking about this and talking.
Yes.
Do you know what? It's not a workplace culture discussion if the Gallup poll doesn't come up, right? You're like, hang on a minute, was that really a culture discussion? No one said Gallup. So we've been saying this for years, 5 years nearly, 6 years since this piece of research came out. And I dare say Gallup's kind of renewal of that is going to be even bigger, right? So quiet quitting has always been there. And organisations, even knowing that these statistics were here, were quite happy to accept that 20% of their workforce, quite frankly, don't give a shit, right? And they're turning up, literally just sat at their desk. And because of your metrics of how you measure performance, they were ticking that box because they were present. And now all of that is starting to unravel, and it's now revealing, actually, someone say the other day, we've got a productivity epidemic on our hands. And I was like, that's always been the case. This has not, yes, it's been compounded by COVID, but it's always been there. We've always had a productivity crisis, in that Gallup added up, did a massive amount of research on this and said £24 billion is being lost into the UK economy through loss of productivity from those statistics, from only 8% of people being in what you and I were talking about at the beginning of this conversation, being in purpose, being in flow, loving their job, being in a space of strength, being in a space of authenticity. That is 8%. And that is shocking. So no wonder why £24 billion is being lost to our economy. Imagine what that looks like now. but they weren't prepared to hear it back then. And now all of a sudden we've got a buzzword for it. Everyone's up in arms. So I think really, Lizzie, our job as, workplace culture consultants is to create a load of really meaningless buzzwords. Listen, and then we might just find we end up with the word of workplace culture.
Oh, it's so true though, isn't it? I remember people saying to me, when I started the business years ago, it was an uphill struggle and I still think there is a massive education piece to do on workplace culture and changing the ways of working. There's a huge education piece that needs to go on. And I remember, pre-pandemic, it was an uphill struggle because people just didn't get it. They didn't get culture. They didn't get really what they were doing. And I always joke that people used to mistake me for just being like a social events organizer. Like, I'm just going to come in and organize your fun days out. I'm like, no, that is not what I do. And then there's been such a shift sort of post-pandemic, because I feel like for those that didn't get culture, the cracks have really opened in terms of everything. And they're blaming it on different things, which is really infuriating. I mean, I'm sure you probably get the same, where people are kind of like, oh well, it's because we're remote now. And it's like, no, it's not because you're remote. Like, they just now want to kind of find another scapegoat for the reason their culture isn't right. And I'm like, no, it's because you're not doing the work. It's not because of your remote. It's not because of this. It's blaming it on this. It's because you didn't do the work. You're not doing the work. And it's so infuriating. Like you say, now everyone's kind of blaming remote working, and I see all these news features that forcing people back into the workplace, or like I said, the productivity epidemic. I mean, I was absolutely disgusted there was a quote by one of the politicians saying that we are lazy workers. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am just, if that's what people are saying at the very top of our UK government, I mean, no wonder we are having an uphill struggle with even leaders in businesses.
You've lifted the box off of Pandora right now. Oh my gosh, I'm jumping up and down in my seat right now. There's so much to say about this, and I think the first thing to go back to, everyone's saying, around look at what COVID's done to our culture, or all these different cracks that are now emerging, and we're blaming it on COVID, we're blaming it on home working. My mantra has always been, every single problem that you have in your organization is down to your culture. It honestly, you could throw anything at me and say, right, well, financially, we're about to hit rock bottom. Right, well, that's also down to your culture, because if you had people in your organization that had the freedom and the engagement and the willingness to innovate, maybe that wouldn't be a problem now. Maybe if you had a culture where people really cared about your organization and made sensible financial decisions, maybe that wouldn't be a problem right now. And if the customer is withdrawing from your product, which is why, then you haven't worked hard enough on your customer experience and you haven't worked hard enough on your product. That's down to your culture. You haven't created this culture where people can tell you what's wrong, can tell you what they're seeing. Your people knew you were going into financial disarray well before you did, right?
Yeah.
So, and I've got some more statistics for you on this. And there's a guy called Andy Vale who did this amazing drawing of an iceberg of ignorance. I think he drew it for the corporate rebels, and ever since I saw it, it's kind of imprinted on my head. And it says, in the very top suite, the C-suite, you see 4% of the problems. And then as you kind of go down the tier, it gets slightly bigger, until you get to the bottom of the iceberg where it says 100% of your people see 100% of the problems, right? You think, well, hang on, look at the space here. If you in your organisation haven't created a lesser gap between the top and the bottom, so you've got this cross-functional discussion going on where your people are feeding up and you are feeding down, and it's this constant stream of information, then no wonder you're now in a space where you have all these problems. So that for me is the first thing. Secondly, I was asked to comment on a press release a few weeks ago around a piece of research that had been done where a third of managers were saying that home working is to blame for loss of productivity. That they believe their staff are working less, basically going back to that politician's quote on, we're lazy workers, right?
Gosh,
And they're
yeah.
all blaming it on working from home. And I mean, Lizzie, we could make a whole podcast episode out. But my commentary back to this article was, hang on just a second. There's two big factors, many factors, but two big ones for the sake of your podcast being, not 5 hours long. Let's just go for two here. The first thing is, if you think we've got a productivity epidemic, we've also got a meetings epidemic, right? Right? That's the real crux of the problem here, is that people are spending so much longer in meetings that they haven't got time to do the doing, because everyone wants to make sure, is everyone all joined up? Does Lizzie know what? I'm going to jump on a call with Lizzie. Oh, if I need to speak to Lizzie, why not invite John and Kumar? Everyone else starts joining the call. And before you know it, your diary is just back-to-back meetings, back-to-back, back-to-back, back-to-back. And so much of my work recently has been around helping organisations break this meetings culture. And actually, I don't know about you, Lizzie, but I find your meetings culture is a real big detector of what your overall organisational culture is. I love doing the meetings work because I don't have to know anything else about your organisation. What I see in this meeting space tells me everything. Are you command and control? Are you laissez-faire? Do you trust your people? Don't you? Like, so much comes out of that. So the productivity crisis, and that people aren't being productive and let's blame it on homeworking, it's not that at all. It's micromanagement and this incessant amount of work that's going into meetings. So that's the second thing. And the third thing, my blood boil, even when you said that quote around lazy workers, just makes my toes curl, makes me want to scream, because what has been completely forgotten, and I'm seeing this more and more now as we are emerging further away from the start of the COVID pandemic, is that we honestly think we've gone back to normal. We honestly think that, and not only that, we've upped it a bit, right? Now, there are some people that have coasted through COVID and had quite a pleasurable experience. I am actually one of those people. My business doubles during this amount of time. I've had some amazing work, amazing clients. I've had my daughter at home. It's been wonderful. But I'm not naive enough to think that my experience is representative of everybody else's, because for absolute fact, it is not. People have lost loved ones. People have developed serious illnesses because either they've had complications with COVID, or they've not been able to access healthcare in the way we were pre-COVID, and therefore these health conditions have exasperated. I know so many people in my clients' organisations that are currently in a deep state of bereavement, having lost co-workers, having lost family members. My auntie, who lives by herself, oh my gosh, she said something to me a little while back, and she went, during lockdown, I went 9 months without a single person touching me. Can you imagine? Right? Yeah,
it's just giving me shivers. Yeah, that's just literally done the same.
I was having my shopping delivered, so I didn't even have that casual brush past my arm where someone knocked their shopping trolley. I didn't have any human touch for 9 months. Can you imagine how that, for people that, whether it was 9 months, even a week for some people, that is too long. Can you imagine how that must have felt for people? And irrespective of whether we've experienced bereavement, loneliness, irrespective of whether we've had any indication of mental unwellness, this has shaken us to our core. Right? And really, in that shaking process, some things should have dropped out. We should have shaken off we should have done a bit of a life check and a culture check and gone, right, what is going to serve us moving forward? And how do we bring all this injury, this hurt, this mental unwellness, these scars that our people are now carrying these past 2 years, how do we bring them along with us? So that idiot, and I will just say it like that, who turned around and said, we're just not hard workers. Hang on. We've kept this country going irrespective of that bereavement, that hurt, that mental health, that loneliness. We've all been showing up for work, giving the very best we can. And you've got the audacity to say that. And so that makes me realize, actually, Lizzie, the absolute importance of the work we do, because people like us have got to stand up for this shit. Because otherwise it then just gets exasperated by the media, and then we end up getting labelled, as a lazy country, and then actually it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And actually, if you think we're lazy, right, well, I'll show you lazy then, if that's what you think we are. And it's no wonder we've now got strikes happening, because people are feeling so so untaken care of, unwell regarded, unwell recognized. So if you really think we're a nation of laziness, just you wait till we all pull out the stops. Yeah, because we could have quite easily have done that and retreated during COVID, and we didn't. We kept on going.
Absolutely.
So
definitely. I love that. Thank you so much for standing on your soapbox, Sophie. That was amazing.
Just be careful what flames you light underneath you, because I would just go.
Oh my gosh, there's so much that, and like you said, we could probably sit here and talk for about 5 hours about these topics, you and I. So I wanted to inject a bit of fun into this season, Sophie. So I was wondering if you're up for a bit of a quick fire round. I mean, it's not that quick, but you get the gist. It's a bit of fun.
I'm all up for fun.
Amazing. So the first question is, a song or playlist that makes you instantly feel good?
Oh, okay. So an instant cheesy one came to mind, and I'm not sure if I should say it because it may well ruin my brand reputation, my friendship with you, Lizzie. Okay, so I was brought up around kind of late 80s, 90s, like rock music. Amazing. Right?
Yeah.
A little bit of Billy Joel thrown in there, but Bon Jovi was kind of the bedrock of my upbringing. Yes. And so the song that will always motivate me, almost gets me so engaged and buzzy, I almost have tears in my eyes, is It's My Life by Bon Jovi. I've seen Bon Jovi, I shouldn't say this, live 5 times. And it's that moment in the crowd where everyone is just claiming their life for their own. And I almost feel like it's an anthem for this age. It really is our lives. It's now or never, right?
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh, love that choice. I'm gonna have to listen to that today now, Sophie. That's it. You've inspired me. The next one is a book or podcast that changed your life.
Oh, okay. It's on my bookshelf right now. It's a book called Big Magic by Liz Gilbert. Oh my gosh, such a profound book. So those of you who don't know of Liz Gilbert, you will probably know her from the film Eat, Pray, Love. She wrote the book, Eat, Pray, Love. And so you really get a bit of a gist if you've seen that film, where Liz has a very, very humanistic, down-to-earth experience of what it is to be alive. And in this book, Big Magic, she talks about the power of creativity, and how we often have these little seeds, little gems of ideas, and she calls them bubbles, right? And they come and sit in our energetic space, and they're there teasing us, like, do something with me, do something with me. And if we don't, that bubble floats off and it lands in front of someone else. And she tells the story in the book around how she wrote a piece of music when she was about 19 years old, and she played it for family. She even had recorded it, right? So she had it on I don't even know, back then it would have been cassette or perhaps some other means, but she has it recorded. And then fast forward a couple of years later, Paul McCartney writes this song, and riff for riff, it's exactly the same as the piece of music she wrote.
Oh my
And
God.
I think about this in so many other circumstances where even on social media, Lizzie, you might get this, where you're like, that's what I was going to say. That was my concept. How has anyone else thought of that? And she just talks about the power of this big magic lands in front of us, and it's a calling. It's a calling to act on that idea, because if you don't, that energy, that idea is going to go and land in front of someone else. And for all you know, that could be Elon Musk. Yeah. And then you're going to be kicking yourself because Elon Musk is doing the thing that you had that seed of an idea for. And that has always resonated with me, to make sure that when I have that big, keeping me awake idea, I always take some action to claim it. Even if I don't birth the whole thing, take some action to claim that as, yes, I've heard you, I've seen you, I want you as this idea, I want you to be part of my life, my mission, my purpose. Just one small action is all it takes to claim it. But if you don't, off it goes. Yeah, that's my favourite.
Oh, me too. This is so, I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all because we're so alike in so many ways. But honestly, that book, I've read it twice. I listened to the audio. I've got the audio version. So sometimes I dip in and out of it when I'm on my walk, just because, like you say, and I am quite, you know me, I'm a bit woo-woo at times as well, a bit, you know, spiritual, universe. I'm very, you know, like got my crystals and all that. People are probably like, oh my gosh, Lizzie. But really, you know,
those that can't see the camera, I'm holding up my crystals at Lizzie.
But it's just so true, and she has this beautiful way of, you know, really helping people connect to that deep inner creativity as well. And she has this idea that, you know, the universe has buried these strange jewels within us, and it's our job to kind of try and find them. And I love it. And that's the hunt, is creative living. And I just absolutely, oh my gosh, so resonate with that. The next question, Sophie, before I get totally off on a tangent about Elizabeth Gilbert, is the best advice you've ever been given.
The best advice I have ever been given. Okay, I guess there's two answers to this one. So when I was stuck in my director's role, and I was like, I just don't know how to navigate this. Like, my husband had quit his job so that I was the sole earner, so that I could go pursue, you know, this career goal, of which it was, like, that was my dream, was to get to this level and then, you know, quit and start business. And I just remember a really good friend of mine, all she said to me was, just quit. Which, it doesn't sound profound, and perhaps for many of you listening to this podcast will think, well, yes, so surely that was obvious, right? But someone giving me that permission, like, it was like, just quit. Like, it was like, I don't know why I hadn't heard that in my own internal dialogue before that. Just quit. Like, if it's not serving you, we've got this way of working that is just push through it. Yeah, push through it if it's your soul calling, your mission. Like, yes, totally. If you've set that goal to cross that marathon finish line and you are 1 kilometre away, hell yes, you push through it, you don't quit, right? But when something's destroying you and you can't see that line of sight, that just quit was just like, whoa. And then I guess the follow-up to that was, it's not what someone said to me, but it's a quote that's emblazoned on the wall in my gym. And it says, it's never too late to become the person who you might have been. And after I quit, that was then my next stage of empowerment, of like, shit, I literally can become whoever the hell I want to be now. Because I've shaken off those shackles. And again, it was like the gym was giving me permission to be like, right, Soph, now go chase your dreams. That was one chapter. Huge learning. Thank you so much for that. But now is a new stage. And so, I kind of use the two, I guess, in combination.
Love that. Love that so much. Oh, yes. And that leads me on to the next one about bucket list item. What's one thing you haven't ticked off yet? that you want to on your bucket
Oh
list?
gosh, the bucket list is so big, Lizzie. It's so big. It's like, oh, if you was like a genie and could grant me one wish, I literally don't know which one I would pull out the bag. Um,
You'd be the person going, "Can I have 100 more
yeah,
wishes,
yeah, literally, I
please?"
think I would need 100 more. Okay, so I am incredibly focused in my business, and so this is a big like bucket list goal of mine. That it's not so much, oh, I can just go and tick it off. It's more of a, I've got to really work to make this happen. But I just have this dream of filling an arena. I have this
Oh, what
dream
would
of
that
filling an
be?
arena, 10,000 people. I don't really care if it's 100,000 people. I'm yellow. Like, it doesn't bother me a conversation of one or a conversation of 10,000. And just sharing what I have learned, and the same wisdom you and I both have, Lizzie, and actually bringing in the whole more spiritual aspect of it. I'm a yoga teacher on the side, I'm a nutritionist on the side, bringing in this whole concept of what it is to be a human being seeking purpose, seeking meaning in their lives, and what that translates to in the workplace. And if we take it from that perspective, what that translates to into workplace culture. The bucket list thing is, I just have this manifestation of standing on this
Love
stage and
that.
empowering
I can see it.
empowering all these people to go, just quit. Okay? Just quit. And it's never too late to be the person you've always wanted to be. Like, just go do
Love
that.
that.
And yeah, which again, I know there'll be some people here thinking, yeah, well, Sophie, in this day and age, that's not easy. We've got recession, blah, blah, blah. Do you know what? If you want it badly enough, you'll bloody well make it happen.
Yeah.
So yes, I
Yeah.
guess that's a bit of a silly bucket list thing, really.
No, I love it. No,
It's,
I love it.
I
I
will
love
not
it.
rest until that's happened.
I can see it. I can see it happening, Sophie. Totally, 100%. I can,
You'll be in the
absolutely.
front row, Lizzie.
I will. I'll be like, woo! I'll be there with my
You'll be
sign,
on stage
everything.
with me.
That leads me on to even more beautifully onto the last quickfire question. If you could create a placard for a public protest, what would it be? What would be your
Oh,
mantra? That
um, so obviously I'm gonna have to be really prompt with how I explain this, but you know how I feel about the education system, Lizzie. Those of you that
yes,
don't, if you
I
haven't listened to my
do.
TED talk, that will
Yeah.
give you an education how I feel about it. I'm very pro Montessori form of education, and how I honestly think that if we educate children, the whole premise of Montessori is education through peace. And if we educate children through peace as well as freedom, curiosity, and play, then as adults, they become a lot more respectful of the world, a lot more respectful of each other, and they're a lot more authentic to themselves because they've got freedom, they've got curiosity, and they've got play. They then parent in that way, which then means the children inheriting that. And then when they come into the workplace, just the magic. A Montessori workplace for me is just phenomenal. So my placard would be outside the front of the Department for Education. Like the biggest placard, think about one of those vans that drive around with the loud hailers. I'm thinking that's it's not on a sandwich board. We're going massive, and it is. I don't even know what the slogan is, but it is asking the DFE to take a really good hard look at itself, because what we are doing with education right now is we are not nurturing, we are not growing, we are not building skills for the future, we are harming our children, because we're still teaching them in the same way we were taught in the Victorian era, where when you look at how quickly technology is advancing, there is no place for those types of techniques and tools in the workplace. It's just obsolete. And you'll know, Lizzie, as a step parent and me with my daughter, that we see this day in, day out, what they're coming home and they're learning, and we know what the future of work looks like, and there is such a big mismatch between it. So I'm not sure what would be on there. I can probably tell you there'd be quite a few swear words. I'm a little bit potty mouth when I'm passionate, it all comes out. But it would be a call to the DFE to go, look, we're talking about productivity crisis right now. We're talking about hybrid working being the problem and thinking we have got much bigger issues coming our way, and it starts with
Yeah,
them. It
100%.
absolutely
Yeah,
starts
it
with
does.
them. They're accountable for this, no one else.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you so much, Sophie. You have been so inspirational, and your energy, it's been so, I mean, I loved absorbing everything that you say. I always feel so energized after our chats anyway, so I'm sure you would have also
No,
resonated with our
totally,
audience.
yeah.
But for those of you listening who are interested in Sophie's work, all of Sophie's links are in the show notes, so definitely go and check out her TED Talk. It is incredibly inspiring, and obviously her work at Ordinarily Different. And also your Rebel podcast as well, Sophie, that you've recently launched. So that's definitely worth a listen. But thank you so, so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, Lizzie. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Make It Thrive, the Company Culture Podcast.